Bringing a democratic spirit to both homes and public buildings, architects Jean-Philippe Vassal and Lacaton have made a name for themselves thanks to a sustainable, thoughtful and respectful approach to construction. The couple have just won this year's Pritzker Prize for architecture, an award commonly dubbed the Nobel of the built environment. And Jean-Philippe, thank you so much for being in the studio today. Now, first of all, congratulations on this accolade, which is extremely prestigious. It recognises talent and commitment through the art of architecture. And when we look back at some of the winners of this prize, people like Rem Koolhaas, Zaha Hadid, Renzo Piano, Christian de Potsenpark and Jean Nouvel, these are people who've really left their mark on our global landscape. And I wondered, is that something that you wanted to do when you started on this career path? What motivated you at the time?
I think it's interesting to be part of all the story of architect and story of architecture from the very, very old times to the person that you just mentioned. And because we learn from what they have done, it's a sort of accumulation of information about the spaces, about at different periods. And all of this is what we need to do our job.
This prize is awarded for a body of work, not one building in particular, but there is one structure that really thrusts you both into the spotlight, and that's the Maison La Tapie in Florac, just outside Bordeaux. And in many ways, I believe it sums up your architectural philosophy. And can you explain some of the key elements there?
Maison La Tapie was our first concrete project for real clients. And for us, it was very new to have to talk with people, and it was also very new for them to talk with architects. And for us, we had a clear, not a clear idea, but a strong idea of what we would like to try to give to them in terms of living conditions. And we were really opposed to this idea of standard, and we were really motivated to try to give a very generous space, but also a strong connection with nature.
And it became a sort of manifesto. We see echoes of that philosophy some 17 years later in your work on the Bois-le-Prêtre Tower here in Paris. Now, this building represents a dramatically different approach to construction. I believe they initially wanted to demolish that tower, which dates back to the 1960s, and make a new structure, but you both wanted to optimize what was already there. Can you talk us through your intervention?
We don't accept demolition because it is so violent. It is so difficult to think to people that stay during 20 or 30 years in their flat and suddenly they have to see their building demolished. So, and we think that it is a sort of waste of money, waste of time and energy. And considering this, we think about a much more kind attitude, and also a most efficient attitude, which means that by addition, you can have more than by demolition and rebuilding.
You extended the building, if I'm right.
Yeah, because our first proposal was to say that we will provide with much better conditions of living inside the flats and not only improving the technical qualities of the building. And we proposed for that all the inhabitants could stay inside their flats during the works. And the extension was filling to the two goals. One was to expand the space for living, allow to reopen the facades and make large glass windows at the place of smaller windows, to have an extension at the same level, to go first in a winter garden, then to outside on the balcony. And giving all of this, we also improve not only the space for living, but also the energy consumption of the building, because the winter gardens, they act as an insulation. But there was a strong interest for the inhabitants, and we work a lot with them to explain, to meet them, to visit all the dwellings, because for us it's the most important is to consider the project from the inside and from the quality of living.
Well, indeed, that building was significantly revitalised. And here's a little more from the people who live and work in that tower.
We've lived here for the last 60 years. We were the first residents. It's practical, and now they've made a park, and it's rather nice. There are supermarkets, we have everything we need. We have the sun at this time of day, not in the morning, just in the afternoon until the evening. It's pleasant, and we have a beautiful balcony that I filled with plants.
Right now, it's a little bit isolated, but it's in the center of a neighborhood that it's in the midst of modernizing, with lots of green spaces, social clubs, and shops surrounding it. So there's a new energy taken over that will have a positive effect.
So as that lady points out, a building is not an island, it's necessarily connected to its surroundings. Can you tell us a bit more about the urban context in that part of Paris and how you took it into account?
The place was a bit complex and difficult because there is a proximity to the big peripheric.
The ring road.
So we had to take care about the sound, about the noise, but to give this possibility to be protected, but to go also on a balcony. And I think step by step, building by building, we can improve details by details. It is a very precise approach, very precise action. It's about kindness. And I think what was very interesting with this building, the municipality of Paris that supported this project, he called it metamorphosis. Metamorphosis, it means that you have to start from something. You cannot start from zero. And this is very, very important about this idea of never demolish. We have to start with what already exists. What is really precious, it is the life of people. And that we have to give to this life of people the maximum comfort and pleasure.
Now, this ecologically conscious approach of transforming existing materials or objects is not limited to architecture. It's something we're seeing increasingly in the world of fashion and design under the term upcycling. Couturier Marine Serre has integrated this practice into her luxury couture pieces. Here's an example.
Here we took vintage embroidered tops, and we used them to make new pieces. The whole idea is to make a hybrid piece, made up of upcycled or regenerated elements. Here you have the embroidery mixed with the jersey. It's that fusion that's very important to the brand's aesthetic.
Now, being frugal with materials is applauded today as an environmentally friendly choice in the West, but it's something that's always existed in other cultures. And I believe that you both spent time in West Africa. Was that something that inspired you there? How did you see their approach to materials?
For us, it was a second school because we learned what is essential, what you can do with quite nothing, and to do with never complaining, but always in a spirit of creativity and how to solve immediately a question, but to do it in a very beautiful way and very efficient way. So for us, it's a lesson that we never forgot.
With this frugality, you have to do the maximum. And it is what is important. It is the ambition of what you can do with less material as possible, less energy as possible, less money as possible. It's place for invention. And invention towards to give the maximum of comfort, of pleasure, and generosity.
Now, as well as residential buildings, you've also worked on public spaces, particularly cultural spaces, responsible for the expansion and redesign of the Palais de Tokyo Gallery here in Paris and the regional collection of contemporary art in the Nord-Pas-de-Calais. These are the sort of ephemeral spaces that we go in briefly, and we've been deprived of them this past year due to the pandemic. What roles do you think these places play in a society, and how did you approach the projects?
It's clear that they have a huge importance as well as housing, as well as education, building. And for us, we don't make a great difference between thinking about housing or making a space for exhibition or for education, because we always place ourselves in the mind and in the body of someone living in space. And the concept of inhabiting for us is the most important in designing architecture, whatever the program is. So a space for exhibition, as Palais de Tokyo or the FRAC, is a place where people come, stay, look at artworks, look to other people looking at artworks. And this is also a piece of life of every day, and where also the artist has a great importance. So we don't approach this project in a so much different way as residents.
Now, looking ahead to the near and more distant future, the theme of exhibitions at this year's Architecture Biennale in Venice is "How will we live together?" How would you respond to that question? What solutions do you think the architecture of the future will propose?
I think we need to be totally confident in inhabitants, in people, and how they live in the apartment, but also in the city. And we have to try to give them the maximum of generosity, maximum of freedom. The question of freedom is so important. And life, we were talking about these art spaces or flats. The question it is about life. Architecture cannot be something in which nothing happens. Architecture happens when life is visible in it. And this is the most important.
Thank you so much for joining us today in the studio, Anne and Jean-Philippe. We'll wrap up the show with another perspective on the symbiotic relationship between climate, culture and construction. A new exhibition curated by the Pavillon de l'Arsenal here in Paris is offering a natural history of architecture, a look back through the ages at the forces that have shaped our homes and the cities we live in. That show's available in virtual form on their website. Otherwise, you can get more arts and culture on our website too, as well as on our social media feeds. There's more news coming up on France 24 just after this.